G'day everybody and welcome back to the winery. So we're following on today from the modification I made to the heat to the crossflow filter where we fitted a drain valve. So I mentioned at the end of that video that I still wasn't happy with the whole setup because I hate dead legs. I don't like introducing problems into tubed systems where you can create cleaning issues or hygiene issues. And essentially we've achieved what the winemakers and cellar staff wanted, but it's come at a cost, and I don't like that cost. So we're going to pull that tube out of the filter today, and we're going to put a valve directly on the tube. Here we go. Alright, we'll undo each of the triclover fittings there, remove this actuator, probably just disassemble this valve, undo the DIN fitting here, and remove this whole section of pipe. Alright, let's give it a go. Two hands required. Okay, this squish valve is now out of the way, and I've taken the actuator out of the way. The other end of the pipe is free, so all I have to do is undo all of the triclover fittings, and this whole thing can come off. Alright, so we've got it on the bench, and I have removed the valve from this end. Because of the positioning, I wanted to place the valve right in the centre, but because of the layout, there's an actuator and valve that sits below this. Obviously in this orientation, so there's a valve that sits below it, so we're going to move it over to here. So it'll be between the second and third valve from the left. So we'll mark that in the centre, drill a hole, cut an oval, and then we'll put our branch puller in from this end and pull a branch, dress it, and weld on a valve. And I'm going to weld on a 1-inch valve, the same as these. This is where branch pullers come into their own. So ordinarily for an equal sized tube arrangement like I made for the valve and sample cock that we did the other day, you would normally just use an equal T. It's a cheap and easy way to do it, and if I had to cut it down, I had to cut it down. I didn't have an equal T on site. I didn't want to drive all the way over to Derwent Park. I've been wanting for a while to make an 1.5-inch branch puller anyway, so I just took the opportunity. But this is where they come into their own, when you have to pull a different sized branch into a tube. So today we're going to be pulling a 1-inch branch into an 1.5-inch tube. And the funny thing is that this tube isn't actually 1.5 inches anyway. Normally with the fittings that I use, we use 25.4, 38.1, 50.8 millimeter. So metric equivalents, metric conversions of imperial size tubes. And when you talk about tubes, you talk about outside diameter. When you talk about pipe, you talk about inside diameter. This is this European stuff is different. This tube, I think this is pipe. I think the outside diameter of this is like 40 something millimeters rather than 38.1. I think it might be the ID that's 38.1. Either way, it doesn't matter because we're just going to pull a branch to weld our valve to. So let's mark it out and get on with it. Okay, time to take a bravery pill. Okay, it's in. It took me way more time than I care to admit to get that blasted thing in there, but it's in. Okay, let's pull a hole. I don't have a ratchet spanner for 16 millimeters. I've gone and bought some. Wasn't happy with that bloody bolt I had in there, so I've got some high tensile all thread. And I've got a joining nut with because they're a bit longer, spread the load out. And they are 16 millimeters across the flats. AF, not American fine. Feels like we're nearly there. Ding. Lovely. Right, wipe the grease away. There we go. So I'll just clean this up now and we'll offer our valve up. Becoming quite proficient with my left hand. That's what she said. Just make sure it's nice and clean. So what I'm going to do with it now is wrestle with it in the vise. So I usually, just let me grab it. Usually if I'm doing anything like this where I need to align the valve, I get a piece of round bar such as this. And that allows me to align it to the main tube, whatever position I want to put it in. In this case, it's perpendicular to the axis of the tube. So I'm going to wrestle with this now, put it in the vise so I can tack it all up. Okay, fairly simple setup. I've just got the hose draped in the tube, taped up at this end with masking tape. This end's blanked off with masking tape. I decided not to wrestle with it in the vise and to do it here, so I've got some aluminium tape with a couple of holes punched in it to let the oxygen escape and the purging gas to flush. And we're all lined up, so all I've got to do now is I've got the purge gas flowing. I'm just letting it get rid of all the oxygen, and then I can get a couple of good solid tacks on it, and then I can piss all this stuff off and weld it out. Okay, here we go. I was giving that a really good run for a little while, but you don't want it flowing too high because what can happen is, where was I going with this? Oh, if you have your gas flowing too high, it can actually build up pressure in the tube. And as you are welding, you've got a nice cherry red little bit of steel there, and the gas behind it expands and can blow out towards the welder. So you just got to be careful. Don't have it flowing too high. I have it between 3 and 5 cubic feet per minute, but can be higher depending on how big the thing is that you're welding. So rack off of that forklift, it just drives this lens insane. Okay, pretty good. Really quite happy with that. So I'll clean that up now, and we can put it all back together. I didn't think about that. I should have had this valve in that orientation with the handle here. But we're just going to have to make a shorter handle. Okay, so the sample cock is back where it belongs, and I like that because it's really short to here. It doesn't keep coming out here into no man's land and have a big dead leg. The product obviously comes down here. So, and the back of this valve is, there's not much up the arse of that. It's just like a plate. And we have our other valve in this line now, which is a much better arrangement. The only downside is, of course, I didn't think about positioning that handle, so I've had to shorten it, but it's still very usable. But realistically, I should have turned it 90 degrees and had the handle here. Well, live and learn. Okay, that's this job done. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and I will catch you next time on Andy's Motorcycle Sessions. Bye for now.